The USS Enterprise is a 24th-century starship in the Star Trek fictional universe and the principal setting of the Star Trek, The Next Generation television series. The Enterprise D also appears in the pilot episode of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, the series finale of Star Trek, Enterprise, and the movie Star Trek Generations. The Enterprise D is a Galaxy-class ship and the sixth Federation starship in the Star Trek universe to carry the name Enterprise. Enterprise D is the flagship of Starfleet. In most of his service in the Star Trek universe, the commanding officer of Enterprise D is Captain Jean-Luc Picard. In Star Trek Generations, after combat with the Dearest Sisters ship, the ship's star drive section was destroyed and the saucer section crash-landed on the surface of the planet Viridian 3. The ship was replaced by the Sovereign-class starship USS Enterprise. Design: Andrew Probert, who helped update the original Enterprise for Star Trek, the motion picture, designed the Enterprise D. Originally assigned to design the bridge, Probert had a what-if sketch hanging on his wall that he had drawn after working on the motion picture. Story editor David Gerrold saw the sketch and brought it to creator Gene Roddenberry's attention, who approved the sketch as a starting point for the Enterprise D's design. Probert received a design patent on the Enterprise D design in 1990. An industrial light and magic team supervised by Yi Zhao Yang built two filming miniatures for Encounter at Farpoint, the Star Trek, The Next Generation pilot, and these models were used throughout the first two seasons. For the third season, model maker Greg Jane built a 4-foot miniature, which had an added layer of surface plating detail. The 6-foot model was used whenever a saucer separation sequence needed to be filmed, and it was then updated by ILM for use in Star Trek Generations. Jonathan Frakes said, "When we negotiate our contracts, paramount unregistered trademark company line is that the ship is in fact the star of the show." In October 2006, the 6-foot Enterprise shooting miniature was auctioned in New York City at Christie's auction house, along with other models, props, costumes, and set pieces from the Star Trek franchise. Its projected value was $20,000 to $30,000. But the final sale price was $576,000. It was the most expensive item in the auction. ILM's John Knoll also built a CGI electric image model of the Enterprise D for the film Star Trek Generations. That model was transferred to Lightwave and used to create various Galaxy-class starships in episodes of Star Trek, Deep Space Nine and in the Star Trek, Voyager episode Timeless. Eden FX's Gabriel Carr Paragraph-Erner built a new CGI Lightwave model for the Enterprise D's appearance in Star Trek, Enterprise's series finale, These Are the Voyages. The proportions of the Galaxy-class Enterprise D were different from the original Enterprise while retaining its familiar dual-warp nacelles and saucer section appearance. The nacelles were made proportionally smaller than the saucer section, based on the idea that warp engines would have become more efficient over time. Depiction: the Enterprise D is first seen in the episode Encounter at Farpoint under the command of Captain Jean-Luc Picard. Several episodes, as well as the ship's dedication plaque, established that the Enterprise was built at the Utopia Planitia Fleet Yards in orbit around Mars. The Enterprise D is the third Galaxy-class starship, after the Pathfinder ship USS Galaxy and the USS Yamato. The dedication plaque gives its commissioning date as 40,759.5, which was intended to represent October 4, 2363. Which would be the 406th anniversary of the launch of Sputnik, humanity's first spacecraft. During the Star Trek, The Next Generation series, the ship's crew makes first contact with multiple species, including the Borg in Q and the Q Continuum in Encounter at Farpoint. The Enterprise D is instrumental in the defeat of the Borg during their 2366 attempt to invade the Federation in the Best of Both Worlds, Part 2. In 2371, as depicted in Star Trek Generations, the Klingon Dearest Sisters obtain the phase modulation frequency of the Enterprise D's shields, rendering them useless. Although the Enterprise D destroys the Sisters ship, damage to the warp drive coolant system prompts an emergency saucer separation. The warp core breaches moments after the saucer begins to move away, destroying the ship's star drive section. The resulting shock wave disables the saucer's propulsion and other primary systems, sending it into Viridian 3's atmosphere. Caught in the planet's gravity, the saucer section crash lands on the surface, damaged beyond repair. It was replaced by the Enterprise E, which was introduced in the film Star Trek: First Contact. According to commentary on the Star Trek Generations DVD, one of the real-world reasons for the Enterprise D's destruction stems from a concept drawing of a saucer section landing, produced for the Star Trek: The Next Generation Technical Manual. TNG writers Ronald D. Moore, Jerry Taylor and Brannon Braga saw the drawing and wanted to use a saucer crash as a sixth-season cliffhanger episode for the series, but were unable to do so because of a limited budget and resistance from producer Michael Piller. Alternate future in the alternate future depicted in the TNG series finale All Good Things. The Enterprise D is intact in 2395, the personal flagship of Admiral William Riker. The ship has undergone major refits, including the addition of a third warp nacelle, new weapons, and a cloaking device. This future timeline arises from a temporal anomaly that Picard, with Q's help, manages to eliminate. Technical capabilities. Saucer separation. The saucer of the Galaxy-class Enterprise can separate and redock, a feature used sometimes to leave its civilian population behind when the star drive section goes into combat, as seen in the Next Generation episodes Encounter at Farpoint, and the Arsenal of Freedom, for the additional combat advantage of having two vessels instead of one, as seen in The Best of Both Worlds, Part 2, or as a lifeboat as seen in the film Star Trek Generations. The Enterprise was the only starship seen in any of the television series to perform saucer separation until the USS Prometheus during the fourth season of Star Trek, Voyager. Command. The main bridge of the Galaxy-class Enterprise is on Deck 1. 3 distinct Galaxy-class bridge variants have been seen, with a fourth from the alternate future variant of the series finale, the Enterprise Bridge in The Next Generation, the Enterprise Bridge in Star Trek Generations, and the USS Odyssey Bridge in the Star Trek: Deep Space Nine episode The Jem'Hadar. The Galaxy-class Enterprise also has a secondary battle bridge on Deck 8 of the secondary hull, for use when the saucer separates. It is first seen in the TNG episode Encounter at Farpoint, and again in the Arsenal of Freedom, with an updated version appearing in The Best of Both Worlds. Science and research. The Galaxy-class Enterprise supports an array of scientific disciplines, with laboratories and departments devoted to stellar cartography, exobiology, cetology, astrophysics, cybernetics, archaeology, cultural anthropology, botany, hydroponics and planetary geosciences. Tactical. The Galaxy-class Enterprise is armed with 12 Type X phaser arrays and 3 photon torpedo launchers, each capable of firing 10 torpedoes at a time. One phaser array is mounted on the Cobra head of the secondary hull, while a photon torpedo launcher is mounted on the ventral aft of the saucer. Both are inoperative while the saucer and star drive sections are docked. The ship also has a high-capacity shield grid and, according to dialogue in the Next Generation episode Conundrum, at least 250 photon torpedoes. Transportation. The Galaxy-class Enterprise has at least 8 transporter rooms and 20 transporter systems. The ship has one large main shuttle bay in the saucer section, supported by 2 smaller bays in the star drive section. The ship carries a variety of shuttlecraft and a captain's yacht. Medical and life support systems. The Galaxy-class Enterprise includes a sick bay and a number of labs and other medical facilities. The shuttle bays, cargo bays, and other areas of the ship can be converted into treat wards. Such conversion of a cargo bay appears in the TNG episode Ethics. Other areas, such as 10 Forward, can serve as emergency shelters. Such use of 10 Forward occurs in the Next Generation episode Disaster. Crew support. Various Next Generation episodes show that the Galaxy-class Enterprise has amenities such as holodecks, an arboretum, a school, a gymnasium, amphitheaters, and a bar called 10 Forward. According to Encounter at Farpoint, Several Enterprise crew members' civilian family members are aboard even though the Enterprise routinely faces situations that could easily end with the complete destruction of the ship with all hands. Some civilians work aboard the ship, such as the bartender Ben in Lower Decks, and botanist Keiko O'Brien in Rascals, and other episodes. References: Drexler, Doug. And Sternbach, Rick. And Zimmerman, Herman. Star Trek, Deep Space Nine Technical Manual. Pocket Books. ISBN 0-671-01563-X. Lebowitz, Adam. And Bonjoon, Robert. Star Trek Starship Spotter. Pocket Books. ISBN 0-7434-3725-X. External links: USS Enterprise at Memory Alpha.